What if your deepest fears came alive, not in the real world, but in your dreams, where escape feels impossible? Nightmares have a way of gripping us in ways we can't explain, pulling us into terrifying scenarios where every shadow hides a threat, and every sound sends chills down our spine. In this video, I'm diving into the most spine-tingling, heart-stopping nightmare I've ever experienced. It's a tale that shook me to my core, a vivid journey into fear and the ultimate fight for survival. As I recount this haunting dream, you'll feel the tension, the terror, and the lingering dread. But here's the twist. There's something I realized in the middle of it all, something that might just change the way you think about fear and resilience. Stay tuned to find out how I confronted the nightmare head-on and emerged stronger. Before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Now let's get started. Starting off with our first chapter, The Descent into Darkness. It began like any ordinary night. I lay in bed, drifting into what I thought would be a peaceful slumber, unaware that my mind was about to construct a realm of unimaginable terror. Sleep took me quickly, but instead of comforting dreams, I was pulled into a vivid and unsettling world, a place that felt too real to dismiss as mere imagination. I was deep in a dark, dense forest. The air was heavy and suffocating, making it hard to breathe, like the very atmosphere was filled with fear. The trees weren't just trees. They loomed over me like giants, their bare, twisted branches reaching up like bony fingers clawing at the sky. The dim light of a pale, fading moon barely lit the way, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move on their own. Every step I took felt unsteady, as if the ground beneath me was alive, shifting like quicksand and pulling me closer to some unknown darkness. The silence was deafening, a haunting void that seemed unnatural in a forest. But it didn't last. A rustling sound pierced the stillness, far too close to be harmless, like someone or something watching from just beyond the veil of shadows. My senses heightened and a chilling awareness crept over me. I was not alone. It wasn't just the fear of the unknown that gripped me. It was the primal instinct that screamed danger. Though I couldn't see what lurked behind me, I could feel it, a menacing presence just beyond my line of sight. Every fiber of my being urged me to move, to run, but a part of me was frozen, paralyzed by the sheer weight of terror. Now let's move on to our next chapter, The Chase. Unable to endure the suffocating stillness any longer, I forced myself to quicken my pace. As I moved faster, the entity behind me followed, its unseen steps echoing louder and louder. The rhythmic crunch of leaves and snapping twigs was terrifyingly synchronized with my own frantic pace. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of panic that drowned out all reason. And then it came, a low, guttural growl that shattered the silence like a predator closing in on its prey. The sound reverberated through the forest, its raw, primal force sending an icy jolt of terror coursing through me. I broke into a desperate run, no longer caring where I was going, only that I needed to escape. But the forest seemed alive, conspiring to keep me trapped. The trees loomed larger, their gnarled branches reaching down like skeletal hands trying to snatch me. The fog thickened, curling around my legs like a living entity, pulling me back with every step. My surroundings twisted and warped, the once familiar path becoming a nightmarish labyrinth of shadows and shifting shapes. Every shadow seemed to move, grotesque figures leaping toward me, only to dissolve into the swirling mist. The presence behind me grew closer, its icy breath chilling the back of my neck. I could hear its growls, low and menacing, mingling with the pounding of my heart. The sheer panic was suffocating, a visceral terror that made my legs weak and my lungs burn. Yet, no matter how desperately I ran, there was no escape. I was trapped in this horrifying realm, unable to wake, unable to break free, from the clutches of my own mind. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit the like button and share your own terrifying nightmares in the comments below. Have you ever felt the sheer terror of being chased like this? Let us know. Moving forward to our next chapter, the clearing and confrontation. After what felt like an eternity of running, I stumbled into a clearing. It was unlike anything I'd seen before, an unnatural pocket in the oppressive forest. In the center stood an ancient, twisted tree, its gnarled branches clawing skyward like skeletal hands frozen in a desperate plea. The air around the tree was unnervingly still, yet it seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy that made the hairs on my neck stand on end. And then it emerged. From the dense shadows, a figure materialized, cloaked in an impenetrable darkness that seemed to swallow the faint moonlight. Its features were indistinct, as if they were intentionally hidden, but its presence was undeniable, a crushing, suffocating aura of pure malevolence. It didn't move, yet its stillness was more unnerving than any sudden attack could have been. I was frozen in place, my entire body paralyzed by fear. Every primal instinct screamed at me to run, to escape, but I couldn't. My legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by an invisible force. In that moment, the nightmare's true terror revealed itself. It wasn't just the figure, but the overwhelming sense of helplessness. There was no escape, no fight, and no waking up. I was utterly, terrifyingly trapped. Now focusing on our fourth chapter, the turning point. And then something changed. As I stood there, consumed by fear, a small voice in my mind whispered, "You've been here before. You've faced fear in real life, and you've overcome it. Why should this be any different?" That realization hit me like a lightning bolt. The nightmare was tapping into my real-life anxieties, amplifying them into a monstrous form. But if I could face those fears in reality, why couldn't I do it here? I took a deep breath, a monumental effort given the weight of the fear, and forced myself to take a step forward. The figure didn't move. Encouraged, I took another step, and then another. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of my strength. Finally, I stood before the tree, the figure still looming over me, and as I reached out to touch its twisted bark, the world around me began to dissolve. The fog lifted, the shadows retreated, and the figure vanished. Now coming to our last chapter, the aftermath. When I woke up, the memory of the nightmare lingered, its intensity refusing to fade. But instead of fear, I felt something else, an odd sense of triumph. The dream had forced me to confront my fears in their rawest form, and I had survived. Looking back, I realized the nightmare wasn't just a terrifying experience, it was a lesson. It showed me that fear, no matter how overwhelming, can be faced and conquered. The key is to confront it, to challenge its power over you. So, that was my most terrifying nightmare experience, a vivid, heart-pounding journey through fear and resilience. But what about you? Have you ever had a nightmare that left you shaken to your core? Share your stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more spine-tingling tales. Thank you for watching.